At 11:47 last night, something happened that has never occurred in the 249-year history of the United States. Inside the J. Edgar Hoover Building in Washington, D.C., the headquarters of the FBI, a stress test began on whether our democracy can actually function when someone decides the rules simply don't apply to them. I need you to understand the weight of what I am about to tell you, because this isn't just a personnel story or a legal story. If you care about what happens to this country over the next 3 days, you need to subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications, because the 72 hours ahead will determine whether American democracy still has a functioning immune system. Here's what we know. 3 independent sources, 2 inside the FBI, 1 from the Senate Judiciary Committee, have confirmed what happened in that building. At 9:14 p.m. Eastern Time, President Donald Trump fired FBI Director Christopher Wray. This decision came just hours after Director Wray testified before the Senate about the Bureau's ongoing investigations into Russian interference in the 2016 election and potential obstruction of justice by the president himself. According to the official termination letter, which was transmitted to my source less than 20 minutes ago, Trump accused Wray of breaking rank and failing to protect the institution from partisan attacks. Let me walk you through exactly how we got here, because the timeline matters enormously. Tuesday, January 14th, Christopher Wray testifies before the Senate Judiciary Committee in a closed session. He briefs lawmakers on the status of multiple investigations with direct implications for the president. Wednesday, January 15th, details from Wray's testimony begin leaking to the press, revealing that the FBI has expanded its obstruction probe to include not just the firing of James Comey, but subsequent efforts by Trump to pressure witnesses and corrupt evidence. This is the moment Trump realizes Wray won't be his Roy Cohn, his personal fixer with a badge. But here's what most people do not know. Behind closed doors, Trump's advisors were divided. Some, led by Attorney General Bill Barr, argued that firing Wray in the middle of these investigations would be seen as a transparent attempt to obstruct justice, virtually guaranteeing impeachment. But others, a group that has been gaining influence in recent weeks, made the case that it was now or never. Either Trump seizes control of the FBI or allows what they view as a deep state coup to proceed unimpeded. And the man leading that charge was none other than Rudy Giuliani, Trump's personal lawyer, who now finds himself at the center of the Ukraine scandal. Which brings us to last night at 11:47, when everything finally broke into the open. And here's where it gets really dangerous. In any normal administration, in any normal time, the president would now nominate a new FBI director who would go through a Senate confirmation process. But that's not what's happening. Instead, according to multiple sources familiar with the discussions, Trump plans to invoke the Vacancies Reform Act of 1998, a controversial law that allows the president to bypass Senate confirmation and unilaterally appoint an acting director for up to 210 days. And who is at the top of Trump's list? Rudy Giuliani himself. That was the context. Now here's what happened when all of that pressure finally exploded last night. Within minutes of the firing announcement, something unprecedented occurred. Senior FBI leadership convened an emergency conference call with all 56 field offices across the country. In that call, they made clear that the agency would not recognize the legitimacy of any interim director appointed unilaterally by the president. They said they would continue their investigations and follow the facts wherever they lead. Essentially, the FBI went into open revolt. But it gets worse, because at the same time that call was happening, on the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue, the Senate was going into emergency session, and that's where Trump ran into a wall he never saw coming. In back-to-back announcements, first the Democrats, then a group of 11 Republican senators, made clear they would refuse to confirm any nominee for FBI director put forward by this president. They said the legitimacy of that position was now in question, and that no confirmation hearings would proceed until the investigations take their course. Trump now faces a Senate firewall, a collapsing line, a unified front daring him to fire his way through. Here's where things stand right now. The FBI, right now at this very moment, is an agency under siege. But it's also an agency in revolt, vowing to protect its investigations and its integrity. It's no longer clear who is giving the orders or who will follow them. The White House, right now at this very moment, is doubling down, insisting the president has unlimited authority to fire anyone for any reason. But they are also lashing out, attacking enemies real and imagined in an increasingly desperate attempt to seize control. And the Senate, right now at this very moment, is a chamber divided, but with a growing coalition willing to draw a red line and say no further. This is a 72-hour contest for the soul of American democracy. 3 possible outcomes, 3 scenarios, and each one will reshape this country. Scenario 1, 40% probability. Trump blinks. Faced with a unified Senate and an FBI in revolt, the president backs down, rescinds Ray's firing, and agrees to let the investigations proceed. He angrily takes to Twitter, decrying a deep state coup, but ultimately realizes he has no viable path to consolidate power over the Bureau. If this happens, it will be a short-term win for democratic integrity. But it will also be a demonstration that this president can, in fact, be restrained when institutions stand up to him. Scenario 2, 30% probability. The FBI backs down. Facing White House pressure and uncertain political support, senior bureau leadership agrees to accept an interim director appointed by the president. Investigations continue, but under a cloud of perceived illegitimacy and subject to ongoing interference. If this happens, it will inflict deep structural damage to the FBI's credibility. It will be seen as a purge, and whatever results eventually emerge will be forever tainted. Scenario 3, 30% probability. And this is the one that should genuinely terrify you, a true constitutional crisis. Trump moves ahead with naming Giuliani, or a similar loyalist, as interim director. The FBI refuses to accept that authority. The Justice Department, under Bill Barr, then faces a decision whether to enforce the president's orders and begin firing rebellious officials. If they do, the crisis metastasizes across the entire federal law enforcement apparatus. If they don't, the president likely moves to fire Barr himself and find someone who will. Either outcome is catastrophic, a split in the very foundations of the rule of law. Those are the stakes, a 72-hour struggle for the future of the republic. And I need you to understand something. This is not just about Donald Trump. This is about the very structure of our democracy, the architecture of accountability, the basic principle that no one is above the law. Because if the president can fire his way out of an investigation, if he can purge federal law enforcement until he finds a leadership willing to bend to his will, then we no longer live in a true democracy. So what can you actually do? Because I know a lot of you are watching this feeling powerless. First, you need to be informed. You need to know what's happening minute by minute over these next 3 days, because events will move quickly and the ground will shift constantly. That means you need to subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications, because I will be covering every development. When the White House makes their next move, when the Senate reaches their final decision, when this crisis reaches its ultimate inflection point, you will know about it in real time. But being informed is not enough. You also need to make your voice heard. I'm going to say something that I have never said in a video before. You need to call your senators. I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans. I don't care if you think you already know where they stand. Because over the next 72 hours, the pressure inside the Capitol is going to be overwhelming. Senators will be looking to their constituents to understand where the public stands and what the political consequences will be for their actions. You need to be a part of that calculus. You need to let them know that you are watching and you will hold them accountable. I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think Trump backs down or doubles down? Will the FBI hold the line or fold under pressure? Drop a comment below with your prediction for how this plays out. And then I need you to share this video. Get it in front of as many eyeballs as you possibly can. Not just your friends who follow politics, but your parents, your siblings, your kids if they're old enough to vote. Because the next 72 hours will unfold whether people are paying attention or not. But our best shot at protecting the integrity of our democracy is making sure the spotlight is so bright that any transgression is immediately and undeniably exposed. Things are moving fast. The ground is shifting by the minute. And the next 72 hours will determine the fate of this republic. I wish I could tell you which way it will go. I wish I could offer certainty or comfort, but all I can offer is my promise that I will be here, every hour of every day, keeping you informed, keeping you engaged, and fighting with everything I have to protect the principles that make us who we are. Because this is not a drill, this is not a test, this is a watershed moment for the American experiment, and the whole world is watching to see if our institutions can withstand the weight of this transgression. So subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications, because the clock is ticking, the dominoes are falling, and the next 72 hours will echo through history. Stay tuned, stay engaged, and stay with me. I'll see you very soon.